Today in the crypto space, we see the market showing a bit of strength. Bitcoin right around 95,500, Ethereum above the $1,800 mark, and the rest of the crypto space. The altcoins, a mix of green and red. We have some good gainers like Hyperliquid and Monero. However, guys, we're waiting for further continuations on a lot of these altcoins. In today's video, I want to talk about the general market. I want to use Bitcoin as a leading indicator. But more importantly, I want to talk about one project that I haven't talked about for a bit, and that project's called Sonic. So you know what? Let's talk about the news, let's analyze the charts, and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. On the channel, we talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins, looking for opportunity. Whether we go up or down, bearish or bullish, it doesn't matter. All we want to do is stay one step ahead of the market so that we can capitalize on any of the volatility. And if you appreciate the strategy, subscribe to the channel, click the bell so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, including the live streams at 8 p.m. EST, where we talk about crypto news and price action. Guys, if you want to follow me on the socials, the links are in the description. Better yet, guys, join the Discord. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. The best part is it's absolutely free. All right, guys, let's begin. Let's see what's going on here, because I see a bit of pressure to the upside regarding Bitcoin. Currently, this pressure to the upside could cause a cascading event where we start to see squeezes to the upside, short squeezes, that is. Now, it doesn't mean that it has to happen. I'm just saying that if Bitcoin decides to leave the station at their current moment, it could be a very aggressive move. It could be so aggressive that it could cause a little bit of FOMO. And that is obviously an interesting thing, because if we see interest all of a sudden, and we look at what previous price action has done, it's very possible that we start to see Bitcoin really rally hard. Now, of course, I'm being very hesitant here. I'm being very critical. I'm also being very aware. I'm being very aware of the risk to reward ratios across all these charts, because some of them have done very well, including Bitcoin. Now, a pullback is definitely, acceptable, and and obviously we'll take full advantage of that, because if it does come down, we're going to see other entry opportunities for a lot of us that have been waiting around for an entry. Guys, we might definitely get that. But in the meantime, Bitcoin is showing a bit of strength, slow and steady grind to the upside. Now, I understand that usually these grinds, sometimes they end with a bit of aggression to the downside, and we definitely talked about that, and we'll talk about it again real quick on the Bitcoin update that I'm going to do next. And of course, today's video is all about Sonic, but we have to use Bitcoin as a leading indicator, right? This is what's going to keep us successful here. If we look at Bitcoin and Bitcoin continues to show strength, what that tells us is that eventually altcoins will get their rotation. Altcoins will get their portion of that capital, especially if we continue to see the total market cap rise. It's not good enough for us to rotate the capital amongst one another. We need fresh capital into this market, and usually Bitcoin is the asset that can attract that fresh capital. Now, I know that's a very old school way of thinking. The altcoins definitely have their own value propositions and have their own marketing budgets and so on and so forth. But generally speaking, that rotation is quite healthy after Bitcoin does run and provides a lot of interest to the market. Bitcoin hits the news, right? It does much better when it hits the news than any other project, if you think about it. All right, guys, let's kind of scale through this top 100, see what's going on here. As you can see, Bitcoin is still kind of sideways within an uptrend. Some may argue, yes, it's a trending price action here on the 1 hour fractal. It's trending to the upside. It could be considered, a channel to the upside. If you get on lower time frames, it's an ascending triangular formation. And we'll take a look at all of this possibility. The thing is that it's very important for you not to get into too much of a lower time frame, because the lower time frames right now is what's causing a lot of people to lose money. And the reason being is because it's been in the chop zone for a good while. Choppy price action is very difficult to trade. And unless you're going to get on the 1 minute or on the 3 minute, it's very, very difficult. So for me, it's looking at the higher time frames, looking for continuation to the upside from the last impulsive move. Ethereum going sideways, and a lot of altcoins are up, give or take maybe 1 or 2%. We can celebrate that, no doubt. I like celebrating all kinds of moves, up, down, doesn't matter. But the reality is that, 2% move within the structure is not good enough for me. It's not good enough. Now, you can see Hyperliquid's up 8.6%, but it didn't break a previous high. So it's still, like, in my book, still potential to continue, no doubt, but it's up 51% in 30 days. So this is the issue here, guys. There's some altcoins that haven't even left the station. And this is what I'm going to be focusing on in the next little while. The next videos that I release are going to be focusing on altcoins that have not left the station. And today's video is on one of those. Sonic has not left the station. So we definitely have possibility there. There are a lot, guys. Even like, for example, Aptos, it didn't do anything. BitTensor 64%. It already left the station. You get what I mean? That's a different scenario. We have others. Near Protocol didn't leave the station. Doing okay here. Ondo just a little bit, but really getting a pullback. Maybe we get a continuation. 20% is good, no doubt. But, you know, didn't really leave the station per se. But there's so many, guys. ICP, if you're interested. Caspa left the station. 42% is done. Render, kind of. You know, I already de-risked on Render, but it could continue. VeChain, a little bit. As you can see, 20%. You know, it's 50-50. You know, Algorand, a little bit. It did its thing. But we're looking for projects that literally did not leave the station. Filecoin's one of them, right? That's another one. Athena, potentially another one. As you can see, Celestia, another one. There's many that really didn't leave the station. So it's our job right now to take profits on projects that impulsed, rotate into projects that have not impulsed, because then you can draw a nice stop loss underneath. You still maintain that exposure to the market just in case crypto as an asset class pumps and Bitcoin pumps. But at the same time, what about if Bitcoin retraces? At least this rotation will put you at the bottom of the range with a nice stop loss to invalidate yourself really quickly with minimal losses. And as you can see, Sonic is another one. Okay, pumped 7.3%, but really hasn't left the station. Okay, that's the only thing that I'm going to be focusing on here on the channel for the next little while are projects that haven't left. And if you have any other projects you want me to cover, join me live tonight, every night at 8 p.m. EST, where we talk about crypto news and price action. All right, guys, I know you're here to talk about charts, so let's begin. Let's see what's going on here with Bitcoin. Bitcoin as a leading indicator, we definitely need to focus because Bitcoin breaks out of this range, out of this impulsive move to the upside. Guys, we can potentially get a continuation. As we have seen in the past, continuations can get quite aggressive and technically could improve the continuation to all-time highs and price discovery. All right, guys, let's take a look at this in a little bit more detail. Now, I want to make sure that I don't come off overly bullish here. All right, I don't want to come off as that, but we have to understand probability. Game of probability, right? That's all it really is. Now, if you look at previous scenarios, look at this ascending type of price action, you know, choppy, and then impulse. And I'm looking at the 6 hour. We can go on the daily and you can see what I mean. You know, hesitation, impulse. Hesitation, impulse. You know, these are things that happen in impulsive scenarios, right? Look, guys, we just started the impulse. We got our first impulsive move out of a downtrend, and we're going to get overly bearish right now. Now, I wouldn't say that would be smart, but at the end of the day, it's okay to have a plan for a retracement, because really a retracement back down to about 88,000, even a little bit lower, absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. We can even come down as low as 85,500 and it'll be absolutely fine. Still a higher low. Actually, that would be a confirmation low. If that happened, guys, I would be full on. I would get full on bullish. I would be fully deployed. I would be going all in on the crypto space if we come down to that level. However, if you do have entries and you're looking for continuations, stop losses right here will maintain your exposure for a continuation. If we repeat what happens here, okay, and we continue to the upside, you'll have that exposure. And this is the thing, taking profits too early is also a bit of an issue. But then again, defensive doesn't matter. You can get defensive at any moment and still protect those gains. So my strategy is as such, trailing up stop loss, or rotating out of risky scenarios and get into less risky scenarios. So I'm looking for that opportunity. I would like to take profits on some of my long positions, such as say, I'm looking to exit that one and rotate into something like AVAX. AVAX is a lagger. Sonic is a lagger, but I already have positions built because at the end of the day, AVAX, Sonic barely moved. It's right here at the bottom of the range in comparison to the Bitcoin price. So it has a bit of a catch up to do. Now let's look at this in terms of oscillator. Now I know a lot of you guys know that I'm a momentum trader. I classify myself as that because I focus on momentum quite a bit. And as you noticed, I pretty much nailed it. You can see that we got risk. I defined a risky scenario where I took lots of profit off of the impulse from this level. And all of a sudden we retraced to this level where there was less risk. And I put this in the chart, these labels, I put them in here when we were at this zone. I just didn't put them in right now. You can check out my charts on the Discord. I post all my charts for reference there. And you can see that this was a beautiful place to take risk. Why? Because it's less risky. Okay, if that makes sense. We started to see signs of reversal, started building margin positions. We got our first impulsive move. I'm still bullish. A retracement is welcome. What's interesting to me is that we haven't yet got overbought on the daily time frame. That's what's interesting to me. And if you've been around and if you've been studying charts and if you understand what momentum really represents, it's basically looking for overbought and oversold scenarios. Those conditions bring you the best moves. And if I'm going to exit now, I am potentially exiting by positions where the best of the move is yet to come. Above 70. Above 70, we get the majority of the move. We have a green expansion to the upside. We have a volatility that's been overbought hanging out there for a good while. I ask you this, why is it waiting there? Is it waiting for something? Maybe it's waiting for momentum to get overbought. It could be possible. Now, because it's a game of probability, I want to make sure that I have that exposure to that possibility, but at the same time protect my gains because I have been very profitable in the last little while with some of my positions. What does that mean, guys? That means trailing up stop losses, taking profits, and rotating. That's what that means. Okay, so slow and steady. Now, we can see that trend oscillators are also looking good. EMA is facing up, green histogram bars, purple expansions, bullish, bullish, bullish. It's definitely in the bullish control zone. Nothing else to be said here. Let's drop down to the 6 hour. We can see that this is where we get introduced with divergence. Higher highs on the price action, lower highs on the momentum. Class A bearish divergence identified. Clearly, we have the histogram bars, EMA is facing down, red histogram bars right here, still in the bullish control zone. After a retracement, maybe we're done. What I'm trying to say here is this. Maybe this is over and we go for another impulsive move, the same way we did it right here. Okay, so I want to entertain this possibility because I want to make sure that I'm not exiting too early. And that's the thing. Stop losses under here could definitely save you from exiting early and maintaining your composure while the market's trying to figure itself out. Okay, so that's that. Now, what do I say about volatility? This is the most interesting part for me. We've come down to this level. We've double bottomed, and maybe we're going to see volatility respond. If the bullish response produces a higher high, as it did here to here, where it broke out and broke direction, and now we got a reset and we go for another higher high and we impulse to the upside after this reset. Guys, it's great. It's bullish. Let's do it. We can even maintain class A bearish divergence while still making a higher high. Multiple drives of divergence exist. In the meantime, the price continues moving up, and that's an indication of a bull run. Backtest this. Go look at the previous bull runs. How many times bearish divergences not only got invalidated, but in addition to that, they got multiple drives of it, right? So this is the thing that you have to understand. In bullish conditions, those bearish indications of momentum, you need to have confluence with other factors, and you shouldn't be exiting because they get invalidated really quickly and often in bullish conditions, and the opposite in bearish conditions. Okay, so this is also very important. Now we can start looking at this. Okay, it's an ascending triangle. It's a ascending wedge. The wedge is definitely climbing to the upside. I'll let you know this. Eventually, this is going to start to look bearish. Why? Because unless we impulse to the upside, which in my opinion, an impulse to the upside would be an inducement, and then expect that manipulation to end with a distribution. That's what I'm looking for, ultimately. So let's see where we go with that. But in the meantime, I am very aware that retail will be looking at this as a potential rollover. And including myself, I would say I'm a retail trader. And the reality is that this volume gap right here will definitely provide opportunity for a full dip to about 88,000 very easily. Very little resistance. You can see the volume gap, the imbalance in this chart at the current moment exists. However, because everybody's looking at it like this, it's a perfect time to trap more liquidity and get people induced and manipulated. And it's very likely that we may see volatility push to the upside, and we might see that quick inducement, and then all of a sudden a quick distribution, and then maybe we start coming down for that dip. And then after that, we load up again. That's when we get into a less risky scenario on the lower time frames where we can start buying the dips and accumulating. Now, if I quickly get onto lower time frames, and I'm going to spend a little bit more time here, guys, just because it's so important that we understand, 4 hour is looking great. Why? Because we're still somewhat overbought on the price. Although we are diverging still, volatility is pushing to the upside. I appreciate that. We could get an EMA cross right here to the upside and continue the bullish response. As I mentioned, this could have been just a temporary temporary pullback. 1 hour, same thing, doing great. It's overbought. Momentum is now shifting to the upside. EMA is facing up. Look at that green histogram bars. We got a divergence that didn't get any follow through just yet. Let me just show you. You can see that. So we are teetering at a potential short squeeze because people are shorting at this level and there's liquidity being built based on those shorts. And what's going to happen is that stop hunts are the ideal place to get everybody wrecked. Okay, so just be prepared for that possibility. And until we see a market structure that suggests a reversal, guys, divergences on momentum, on trend oscillators are not enough to build a thesis. You need to find confluence. All right, guys. So that's my two cents there. Do your own thing, of course. I'm preparing for the dip, but I'm not getting that aggressive yet with shorts or even aggressively taking profit. For me, improving my risk to reward ratio is the only thing I'm willing to do at the current moment. All right, guys, let's move on. Let's take a look at Sonic. And of course, this is part of the strategy. Now, if you look at other projects, for example, Tau or whatever, any projects that has been pumping, compare it to the Sonic chart, okay? Now, we can also bring up the Fantom chart. And the reason why is because Fantom shows you more data. And Fantom and Sonic are pegged to the same chart. Obviously, they have the same chart. Its history was migrated or basically updated to Sonic, and the rest of the chart is the same. As you can see, this represents the tail end of the Sonic chart right into here, and you can see that even if you use the rest of the chart, Fantom is at the bottom of the range. Sonic is at the bottom of the range. You can see bottoms everywhere. Now there's two levels that I'm interested, right here and right here, right around the 20 cent mark. That's the level. That's where I would love to DCA. However, if Sonic, let's go back to the Sonic chart because this is the chart that we're actually looking at. If Sonic continues holding support here and eventually you can see this momentum continue to the upside and gets overbought, I'm expecting a massive move. My bigger concern in the short term is the volatility line, which is the orange line. And we saw Bitcoin what it did. It held up here for a good while. It is very possible that we get a full reset. It's possible. And look at the last time we reset or even got a dip. It did a Uno reverse right here. And if we look at the last time we dipped from here, okay, and we came down to here, okay, look at that. Now, if this happens again where we get that response and we make a higher low, game on, guys. Game on. If we get a higher low, game on, and then all of a sudden higher high. Just keep in mind, I've been DCAing all throughout this level. I got into margin positions. I got spot positions. I'm fully loaded on Sonic. But at the end of the day, it hasn't left the station. Let's get back to the Fantom chart. Look at this, guys. No expansion, nothing whatsoever. It's not like it's overbought or crazy volume gaps below or anything like that. So if you are looking at a project that has been running and you're saying, I'm going to take profit and what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy Sonic and put a stop loss right here. What you did there is mitigate the risk of losing your gains. Because the stop loss is really tight here. It's very close by, and you still have exposure. Number one, to an asset that hasn't pumped, so it could still pump. Number two, what about if this market eventually turns bullish and the entire space continues showing strength? Fantom and whatever other project you sold will still pump, but all good. You mitigated the risk. You took away the possibility of taking a bigger loss because you have a stop loss nearby. So in my opinion, right now, Sonic is primed for a good risk to reward ratio scenario. So let's drop to the 6 hour real quick. You can see that we're not even overbought on the 6 hour and we're just hesitating here, doing nothing, which is healthy if you're looking for stability with the potential for that pump. And you can see that this inverse head and shoulder type of scenario, this looks okay. We made a higher high. We're coming back down. We're above the 200 EMA on the 6 hour. We have a bit of a volume gap above. We have our clear invalidation. If we drop it below 45 cents, 44 cents, you can stop yourself out and then see what happens when we reach 36 and maybe even lower, as I mentioned. Let me fix that again. As I mentioned down here, because if you look at the Fantom chart, that's the absolute bottom around 20 cents. I would be interested down there as well. But you can see that literally Sonic hasn't left the station. So that's what we have to look at. Now on the 6 hour, we also have a divergence, a bit of divergence. EMA is facing down, but we are trending to the upside. Look at this. Okay, we are trending to the upside. Now, when does this trend eventually end? Look at the bearish expansions, how they've been slowly tapering in. Okay, now we're definitely consolidating. This is a consolidated. Could this be a consolidation before we get an expansion or a dip to the downside or expansion to the upside? We've been quite bearish here. As you can see, we're potentially looking for a shift to the bullish control zone to the upside. We've been trending to the upside, which is good. Okay, ultimately, look at the EMAs, definitely trending. The bulls are in control in the short term. Look at that. Okay, so not bad. And again, there's a lot of indications here that the market in general is looking for it. Bitcoin has been looking pretty good. Ethereum is fighting for a bottom. As you can see, it's at this current moment outperforming Bitcoin. Do I even suggest that at the current moment? But for the day, it's okay. Like ultimately, we want Ethereum to do well. It could definitely attract liquidity as well, given the fact that it's an ETF and all of that. Could definitely attract retail to get interested in again, right? So this is what we're looking at here, guys. Getting in from riskier scenarios, protecting your profit, and looking for laggers that haven't left the station. And that's what I'm going to be doing in the next little while. Expect updates, expect videos on projects that have exactly those characteristics so that we can stay one step ahead of the market. Guys, if I've offered you any value in this video, do the channel a massive favor, slap the like button. It does really help out with the algorithm. If you want to follow me on the socials, the links are in the description below. Feel free to join the Discord, guys. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. The best part is it's absolutely free. Take care, guys. Have a good one. And don't forget, buy the dip.